Okay, and we have one quick tip from one of my students, Eric. So he actually took this photo himself, which is a great way to avoid copyright issues. But we're going to look at the values. He took this photo, and you can see the values in the light, but that area in the dark there, it just drops down into total darkness. So I'm going to show you how to work with that. So on the right-hand side, we raise the lightness of this picture so light that the light areas are totally bleached out. But what that means is we can see what's going on in the shadow. A camera does not see the whole value range that our eye see. So if you have on the photo on the left, you can, if you have all the value ranges in the light, you lose the value range in the shadow. And on the photo on the right, if you keep the value range in the shadow, you bleach out everything in the light. So that's the best that photography can do, not as good as our eyes. But if you use two photos and lighten one and darken the other, you'll be able to see everything you need in that photo for your piece of artwork. Okay, so here's Leslie's. So Leslie wants to know, how can I simplify the busyness where the two structures meet in the upper right corner? And she asks about recommending additional plant detail or color to the rocks, and how to best capture the depth and glistening of the water with fiber. So these are good questions. So what she's asking about here is this corner. Now, anytime you have an intersection of two things, it acts as an arrow. And in this case, this arrow is pointing outside of the picture, and it's going to make your viewer go to whatever's hanging next to it and buy that one instead of yours. So we don't want that. We want to get rid of that. And so the easiest way to do this in this particular composition is to simply crop it. So on the left-hand side, you see the dotted line, and on the right-hand side, it's cropped. So that intersection is now gone. And so it's not a problem anymore. This also makes a better composition for the rule of thirds, which we will see here. So we can see that cropping the picture moves the pathway a little bit to the center of the rule of thirds, and the top of the, I moved it up a little bit. Cropping it also got rid of the sky at the upper right, which if you wanted to put that back in, you could, but I like it without the sky because it feels more intimate. And this feels like an intimate kind of a thing. So yeah, I think the composition is better just by cropping it a little bit. And also the tree, that green tree in the upper right, the curve of that tree keeps the eye from going outside the picture. Whereas on the left, we have this little spot of the lightest value in the picture in the upper right-hand corner, and that's going to draw the eye up and out of the picture, and we don't want to do that. Okay. So then she says, would you recommend adding additional plant detail? And how can I best capture the depth and glistening of the water with fiber? This is a fabulous question, because guess what? This is almost 100% impossible. This particular image, the way to get those fabulous reflections would even be hard in paint, which is easier than fiber. So, however, there's a very tricky way to address this. It can be addressed, and I'm going to show you the trick. So this is how I would address it. What I did was I added a figure. Now, maybe not this woman in blue jeans and a red shirt. You might want to add a monk in a saffron robe, if, you know, or whatever. But this is why that's good. Once you put a focal point in here that people will look at, you get away with being able to put much less detail on the reflections in the water and on that, you know, rocky background, and get away with it because their eye is not going directly there. And so, yeah, this would be, I would say this would require quite a few color sketches of, you know, to work out your reflections, and to, because you've got two things going on here. You've got reflections in addition to seeing through the water at the stuff that's underneath. So that makes it really complex. You might want to simplify that in some way. The reflections on the left-hand side water are easier to show. There's also fish down there. I mean, these are all things hard to show. But if you put a focal point in there of a, and this girl is in the red is who I found, but if I was doing this, I would put a monk in a saffron robe, then you get to do your fun stuff with the background, but it doesn't force you into a position where you have to do practically the impossible, because people will be looking at whatever your subject is. You could put an animal in there. You could put whatever you want, but as long as you have a subject in there, then people focus on that. Okay, so Anne asks about the stone cliff. So she wants to know tips on successfully painting or quilting these stone features. And that's a great question. I love this picture. So we're going to look at this. And my best answer to that is to use Stonehenge fabric by Northcott. That is made for stuff like this, but not all in one piece. You want to cut it apart. So you want to buy a lot of yardage because you're going to be cutting this stuff up like Swiss cheese. And you want to be aware of the lines. So be aware of where your horizontal areas are and your vertical areas. So I've highlighted horizontal areas with the green here. And that would be like the edge. I would cut my fabric there, you know, because I want to show some horizontal things and I want to show some vertical things here. So I would fussy cut the fabric and probably use steam to you know, layer these on top to kind of get that effect. And then I would do a lot of quilting with the different colored threads to get those striations and stuff in there. But this is a great opportunity to use Stonehenge fabrics.